Tax day is July 15th this year, and today we have some last-minute tips for those of you who still need to file. And joining us now is Kimberly Palmer with NerdWallet. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so we have had an extension this year because of the coronavirus outbreak, of course, but what if anyone needs an extension beyond the July 15th deadline?
You can still ask for an extension, but you have to ask before July 15th. So make sure you file a form with the IRS. You can easily find it at irs.gov. And you can actually get an extension until October 15th. So that gives you plenty more time, but it's really important to know that if you owe money, you need to be sure to estimate how much you owe and pay it by the deadline of July 15th. Otherwise, you could get hit with penalties and also paying interest.
Yeah, you do not want that. But what should you do if you can't pay your taxes in full, and what kind of penalties could you face?
Well, you do have options. So if you know that you can't pay what you owe, you can actually make an agreement with the IRS, a payment plan. There are different kinds of payment plans. You can do it in the short term, in the long term, and you actually do still pay fees and interest. But the good news for you is that it means that you have a plan for paying off what you owe, and also the IRS won't come after your wages.
And so what should we know about the income brackets and standard deductions?
Well, what's important to know about the income brackets is that essentially the more money you earn, the higher income bracket you're in. So the more you'll be taxed. And so basically, as you earn more money, you are taxed a higher rate on that money that you earn. So in general, that's something that's good to know, because then, as you know, as you're earning more, you're also paying more. The standard deduction actually went up significantly in 2018. And so for a lot of people, it's easier just to take that standard deduction rather than going through and itemizing. It's a really good idea if you're not sure. You can either do it yourself or work with a tax professional to see what items you can deduct. It can be things like a home office, medical expenses. There's a whole list you can go through. But essentially, you want to make sure that if your deductions add up to less than the standard deduction, then it makes sense for you just to take the standard deduction.
I'd imagine next year you're going to see a lot of deductions for home office because of the coronavirus. So it's also the deadline to contribute to your 2019 IRA. What should we know about that?
Well, what's important to know about the IRA is that the deadline is the same as the tax deadline. So it shifted to July 15th. But you don't want to leave it to the last minute if you're thinking of making additional contributions, because sometimes it can take a few days for those payments to process. So don't wait to the last minute. Just give yourself a little bit of a buffer so you make sure you get it in by that July 15th deadline.
And what about the health savings accounts, or HSA?
It's the same situation there, actually. And so the deadline shifted for HSA, for the health savings accounts, July 15th. You just wouldn't want to make sure you meet that deadline. And again, don't leave it to the last minute, because sometimes there are delays in processing.
Okay, so you generally have to withdraw funds from your retirement accounts when you reach a certain age. Are there any changes this year?
It's so important for people to know that there are changes this year because of the CARES Act. Of course, that's the act that Congress passed to help people get through this crisis of the coronavirus and the huge financial impact it's had. So you can actually make withdrawals without the normal fees in some cases. So you want to make sure to check on that and see if you are in a crisis. It could be something that is useful to you. We would never encourage people to go ahead and withdraw retirement funds, because of course you need those for retirement. But there's so many cases where you just have to get through this crisis. And so it can be worthwhile to make those withdrawals.
Okay. What about the deadline for state tax payments?
What's interesting about states is that states actually handle it differently. And so it really varies widely. In a lot of cases, the deadline did change, just like the federal government, to July 15th. But in some cases, it didn't. And so you do want to check to see what the rule is with your state.
Well, we know a lot of people need some extra cash right now. So if someone were to file today, how long will it take to get the refund?
It really depends on how you file. In general, if you're filing by paper, so you're actually mailing it in, it can take 6 to 8 weeks to get your refund. So that's a long time. If you don't have that patience, if you want to get it sooner, then you should actually be sure to file electronically, because then you'll get it within 3 weeks.
Okay. Do you have any advice for taxpayers looking ahead to the 2020 tax filing season?
The most important thing to know going forward is that the next tax season is going to feel like it comes up so quickly because instead of the normal year, it's just 9 months away already. So you want to make sure you're keeping track of all your paperwork, stay organized throughout the year. It'll make it a lot easier when it's next April.
Boy, so many questions about this. Thank you so much for answering them and all of the information. Kimberly Palmer with NerdWallet. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.